Hello. The purpose of this video is to explain how to properly tag your grid lines, your grid reference lines, and how to assign drawing titles. So once you've set up your viewports to display correctly and you have your reference grids according to your floor plan, we can now put in the reference tags that goes in it. So let's go back to our model space first. Now, in our model space, we have a floor plan, okay, that shows some grid lines. And according to this one, the grids, the reference grids are shown on the right, and the vertical grids are shown on top. The preference whether your reference grid shows on the left or right, it depends on the office or the architect. So it doesn't really matter where you want to show it. But typically, the grid lines that goes up and down, the vertical ones, are assigned a number, and the grid lines or reference grids that goes horizontal are assigned letters. Okay, so if we were to assign these, then this would be my number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Okay, so let's see that on our actual floor plan. We're just going to look at it really quick. Here's our actual floor plan. Okay, and if we were to put a grid here, we would have to bubble it in. Okay, so let's say we want to put a bubble, and our bubble will be a circle. Now let's click this and draw. And let's just make it a 1/4 inch, or not a quarter. This is model space, so let's just make it like this, and then match property so it becomes one with the grid. Okay. And I'm gonna move this quadrant, say here, and then just make copies. Same thing here. So you have your grids and bubbles reference, and now you're ready to put in your numbers and text. So we can just do a text. I like single line text, so we know single line text. I want to put it on, well, let's just put it anywhere for now. And then the height, let's say up to that one. Okay. And then the rotation angle is just horizontal. And then we put in our 1, enter. And let's just position it anywhere for now. We're going to erase this anyway because we don't want this to be showing on our floor plan. So that'll be my number 1, and the next will be your number 2. I'm going to copy here, and this will be my number 2. This will be my number 3, and this will be my number 4. Okay, so those here, the intersection of my number 1 and the first one up here will be letter A. And then it goes down to B, C, D, and then down here to C. Okay, by putting in reference grids and bubbling them out and assigning them numbers and letters, these grids are typically where your columns are found, or the lines of walls. So if you're referring to a job site, you might say the wall in grid 1, okay, needs to be changed. Then you know exactly which wall is that. If there is a column somewhere in this wall or somewhere over here, okay, or somewhere over here, you would say column E3 or column A1. So that's how we're going to use these grids. But we don't write these grids here, okay, because if we save this, it will show on our elevations and floor plans, and we do not have any control of this one in the paper that we're putting it on. So we don't normally put this on here. So, but you may want to put it there temporarily so you can see which numbers are in which grid. So what they do typically is they leave it here and then they put it on layer that does not print. Okay, so we can put it in like layer viewport, and the viewports are going to be are designed not to print. So when we save that and we go to our elevation or section plan, they will show here, but they are not actually going to be printed. Okay, because on our layout they won't print. Viewports are designed to be turned off, so it won't print. So that's one way of doing that also. Okay, so knowing that this is a 1 or this 1, 2, 3, we can now put in A1, 2, 3 here. So this will be 1, 2, 3. Okay, this would also be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one would be this E. So this would be E, D, C, B, and then A. All right. So we don't put it in model space. What we do is we actually put it in paper space. So in paper space, we are in control of the actual heights of text. So when we put in text and we want to put in a single line text, and you click the start, and we want it to be justified um, at a certain way. So start point of text, we can start anywhere. What is the height of the text? We want it to be 1/4, and we can say, hey, I want it to be 1/4 inch. Press enter, and then direction is 0, and then we can now put in our number 1. There you go. So we are in control of how tall this text is. We also want to change the property so that the justification is always in the middle and in the center. So there's a justification called middle center, okay, so that when we put a grid here, okay, by using a circle with a center defined at the insertion ins enter of this number, we can specify the actual size of the radius. Okay, so if we put in 1/4, that is the radius of 1/4. So we are in control of everything because we are doing it in paper space. Okay, normally we would put another layer and create. Sorry, we have to click all, and then we have to create a new one, and we're going to call it layer grid, and then we're going to assign it um, cyan. Close that, select this, and change it to layer grid, and then move that about here. Use holding it at the quadrant, going over here, and then making copies just like we did earlier. Okay, and this would be my 1, and this would be my 2, and my 3, and my 4. There you go. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you want to look at it first before we finalize our grids, we can do a preview, and that's how it's going to look like. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this would be our right facing elevation, and The ABCs are coming from the back of the property, so this will be A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so press close, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to do a copy, point it over there, click over here, and then name this A, and then do a copy. And then this would be my B, and then this would be my C, this would be my D, and this would be my E. Okay, so same thing over here. This one is the rear of the building, so it's actually going to be in reverse. 1 will be here, 2 will be here, 3, and then 4. So this will be my 2, this will be my 3, and this will be my 4. And this one again is the reverse. A will be here, and then this will be my B, my C, D, and E is going to be there. There you go. Okay, save your work. And then that's how to correctly reference a grid um, by first doing it on your floor plan and then assigning it letters and numbers. Typically, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and the grids that goes horizontal going down are assigned letters. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to go into set a drawing title for each one of these. Now that we have added grid reference bubbles for our elevations, which is based on how we assign them in floor plans. We don't want to see these on a floor plan, but we have to like put it somewhere so that we can properly identify that grid. We assign this on paper space, so that's why we didn't do them until now. Um, the next thing that we need to do is probably put in some drawing titles. So this would be the front elevation, the right elevation, the rear elevation, and the left elevation. Okay, so front, left, rear, right. So sometimes that can be confusing because which one is the front of the building, which one is the rear, the right side, whatever. But once you establish that on a first floor or a site plan, that the south elevation is always the front of the building by tradition, then when you say front, if this is the front, then naturally, if this is the front, this is the rear, and the front, then this is the right side, and if this is the front, then this is the left side. Okay, so you can do that and call it that way. I've also seen names of the elevations not to say front, rear, left, or would say elevation 1, elevation 2, elevation 3, elevation 4. I've also seen it that way. However, let's just go traditionally and call this front. Okay, so remember that we are always in control of our text heights in paper space, so we don't label them in model space, we do it in paper space. Um, Working on a white background with colored lines, especially when you go and work with green, yellow, and cyan, is sometimes really hard on the eyes. But working with colors up in our brain tells us that, hey, red is the thinnest. So anytime I see red, that means it's the thinnest. And every time I see a blue or a cyan, it'll be thicker. I've just noticed something here that this one is supposed to be blue. So I'm going to double click, change that to pen 5. There you go. And then simply zoom out. But there is a way to not see red is red in paper space, right? So far, we are working with colors so that we can keep track of which one is thick, which one is thin using colors. And if we want to see the output, we just do a preview and then we can see the output there. Okay. So that's how normally people who work with AutoCAD do it. However, in the advent of Revit, where the drawing space in Revit is now white, and there usually are no color assignments in Revit, um, there's a way to view this just like Revit people does it. So to do this, we will do a page setup and then modify the setup for that page. Make sure that you have used the printer that you want and you're using AutoCAD CTB. This checkbox over here means that I don't want to see colors on my plot styles or my page setup. I want to see whatever the CTB file is supposed to show me, which is black, unless I really want it colored. So simply check that box and click OK. And then when you close, it will now turn into black and white. Okay. However, when you zoom in, you might see all the lines having only one line value. So there's another setting that you need to change, and that setting is about line weights. And that variable is called LWDISPLAY, line weight display. Line weight display is turned off right now, so when you zoom in, you'll see that everything has the same line weight. But when you turn on LWDISPLAY to on, you're going to see now that some are thick and some are thin. Okay, so that's how to, now you don't need to preview, but sometimes people don't like to see it this way because they don't know what color assignments have been assigned to this. They just know that it's thick, but they don't know which color would make this drawing this thick. Okay, anyway, we have done our color assignments now, and we are now setting this up for printing. So we can now put in drawing titles. So we can, at this point, apply our plot styles and turn line weight display on. Let's now work on the titles over here. So for the titles, we're simply going to do again a text. And I'm a fan of single line text, so I'm just going to click somewhere. Titles, it depends on how big you want them. Okay, so we can do a 1/4 again, and then go straight like this, and then simply type in all caps front elevation. It's red because my current layer is pen 1, so it's going to be thin. So when I press enter and then one more enter, it'll turn dark. Okay, and if that's how big you want your titles to be, then that's how big you want them to be. Okay, so again, you don't know which color or which assignment is this, but you will know up here unless you can't remember your pen assignments. So if I click this and change this to, let's say, pen 5, okay, you don't really notice a difference, or do you? So let's compare. I'll bring 1 down here and change this to layer 1. Okay, and does it have really difference? Not really. All right, because of it's just a text. What if I change this to the thickest one, pen 6? Do I really see a difference? Okay, not really, but maybe after a region will you see the difference, or region all. Okay, so if it doesn't, then that's fine. Um, it's relatively a no effect on text unless you are using a different kind of text that is not based on true type fonts. So these texts over here, they're not true type fonts, they're simplex fonts. They are fonts that comes with AutoCAD. Nowadays with Windows, you can assign true type fonts, and these are what we call true type fonts. And line weights don't really affect them other than clicking on them and then changing them from their um, normal text style to, let's say, bold. Okay, so you can do that. Um, so this is a single line text, but if you use multi-line text, okay, you can see that you have a bold style over here, or you have an underline, everything like that. Okay, for single line text, I don't think you can assign a property that assigns them bold or something, but that certainly works with multi-line text. Now, to me, this is a little bit small. Okay, so I can change that the height of this one. I'll erase one. Okay, do a region. Sometimes, so that AutoCAD will be much faster, that it doesn't really change the color until you. I mean, it doesn't really affect the black and white mode or plot style mode until you region all or region. So let's just erase this and let's leave this to color 5 or something. But that's too small for me, so I'm going to go and create something with that's bigger. So if you make half an inch, okay, that seems to be better for me. So all I need to do is put it where I want it and then do the same thing for each one. Before I proceed, let's look at the justification. This is left. Okay, so that's bottom left, and everything is bottom left, which is what we want. And this one is the right elevation. Okay, there you go again. And that's okay. We're just gonna region later. We're gonna copy here on top, and we're gonna call this the left elevation. And the last one here, which I wanted to be aligned with this one here. So you simply point but not click, and then AutoCAD should remember it. Oh, no. So let's just align that manually. There you go. And then call this rear elevation. There you go. And then they're blue because they're pen 5, but if I regen again, switch again to black. Okay. It's like I made a copy here. Which one is my copy? There you go. All right, so that's just the names of these drawings. They also wanted to put in a drawing number. Okay, so drawing number means that we're going to again put in a circle. And let's just copy this one. So we're going to put in a circle in this one. And what they typically do is they put in this one wherever they want to, somewhere here, and then put a line through this one. Nope. Line and its quadrant. And then extend that line up to the edge of the drawing, like so. This one is a little bit too small, okay? So you would have to like maybe scale this up to twice, okay? And then we would draw this line, go through, and then move this Um, let's move the text on the insertion point. Then INS doesn't seem to capture. So let's just manually move that there. All right. And some firms want to modify the name and put in sheet numbers over here too. Let's do a match property and match this with this line so they both have the same thickness. So some companies or some firms would put in 1, and then if this is sheet number 82, then they would put 182. And this would be 282, and this would be 382, and this would be 482. So it doesn't make sense sometimes, because when you're working with a construction drawing, you often would change the sheet numbers. And if you change sheet numbers, and all of these ones will change sheet numbers too. Okay. So you would see something like this, and they would say A2 on it, but we're just going to leave that blank. Okay. So that if this becomes A3, then we don't need to change any of the sheet numbers below this box. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is we need to put in the scale. So we're just going to copy this. Oh, no, we're going to copy this one below. And we're going to change the height to an 8. And we want this to be a little aligned with our letters over here. There you go. And then we wanted to put in the scale. Okay, the scale will be equal to 1/8 inch is equal to 1 foot and 0 inch. And then press enter and okay, and then simply regen. So that's the scale of our drawing. Some people want to use a scale diagram or a graphic scale. And Revit has that option. You have to draw it though. Okay, so we'll just leave it like this. Sometimes you would see the word scale here, and then the scale would be on the other end of this drawing. So you would see something like this, and then we'll change this to a justification of right, and then you would see something like this. See this one aligned at the very edge like that. You would see something like that. Okay. Uh, so again, if this scale is too small, you can always change the size or height on your property. Okay. And then you just want to copy this setting on each one of these. So we're just going to copy. And we're going to copy this one, including that. I'm going to copy from this insertion point to this insertion point here, and another insertion point here. I didn't copy the line, so we're just going to copy it again. Okay, we're going to copy this line from the center to the center, to the center, and to the center. Okay, now which one is 1 and 2? I've seen their numbers go 1, 2, 3, 4. I've seen it 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it doesn't matter. Okay, as long as you have some sort of order on how you are numbering these drawings. Okay, and then we simply have to do a region. right? And that's basically how you put grid lines and drawing titles on your drawing. Here's an example of a drawing scale that sometimes architects use. Instead of saying scale is 1/8 inch to a foot, they would actually put something like this. So you have to draw each one, or you may have a collection of different scales that you wanted to use. So we call them sometimes bar scales, okay, or graphic scales. So let's say we want to use this, we simply do a selection here and do a copy, clipboard copy, and then go to our elevation or section, go to the paper space, and then simply right click clipboard and paste. And then we simply paste that there. Okay. And if that's too thick, you simply select that and put that in. Whoop, that's too thick. I should have done inserted it as a block. The text here, these are not TrueType fonts. These are simplex files, which are original fonts that comes with AutoCAD. And we can just change the layer color of bar scale. And bar scale, and we can change that to color, let's say red, and then that would make it a little bit thinner. Okay, so instead of drawing a scale or drawing saying scale, you can also do something like this. Sometimes, if everything is set to the same scale, you would have the bar scale here on the lower right corner, okay, instead of having a scale in each one. A lot of architects sometimes don't like to use this because they take a lot of space, okay? So they would just settle for saying scale is 1/8 is to a foot. But let's just leave this here. Um, and then we'll just put that, we'll, we'll just put that in the lower right corner here, okay? And just leave it as is. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in some datum lines here to put in the heights of the floor and put in some of these drawing titles and information on this drawing title block. Okay.